Hello and welcome to the other side of dreams. I'm your host, Jocelyn. This podcast is a space for women in midlife and especially mothers, empty nesters, and immigrant women who find themselves quietly asking, what now? Is this really all there is? And why do I feel stuck, even though I've done everything right? Here, we talk honesty about healing, identity, faith, and the seasons of life that no one prepared us for. I'm glad you're here. Just a gentle reminder, what I share here is meant to encourage and inform, not replace professional advice. Please take what serves you and seek support when you need it. Hello, Cs. Welcome back to the other side of dreams. If this is your first time here, I'm really glad that you found your way. And if you've been listening for a while now, thank you for trusting me with your time and your attention. I don't take that lightly. This space is meant to feel like a quiet room that you can step into, where nothing is demanded from you, but something honest is offered. Before we go further, I want to say this clearly. I am not here to scare you, and I'm not here to rush you through anything. This episode isn't dramatic. It's not loud. And it's not urgent in the way panic sounds urgent. But it is important because today we're talking about something many women feel, but they don't always give themselves permission to say out loud. The fear is not aging. The fear is being unprepared, not prepared financially, and not prepared emotionally, and not prepared for what happens if life changes, not with a warning, but a quiet and suddenly. And if at any point during this episode you feel a little uncomfortable, I want you to hear this first. Nothing is wrong with you, and you are not behind, and you are not failing, and you are aware. And awareness, that's where power begins. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had one of those quiet moments? And usually it came late at night when the house is finally goes quiet. No noise, no one asking for anything, and no role to perform. Just you and the quiet space. And a thought that slipped in. Not panic, not drama, just a question. What if something happens to me? What if I get sick? What if my body doesn't cooperate one day? And what if I can't work the way I do now? And what if the bills don't stop? Because if you get sick, they don't go down. They actually go up. Medication, appointments, and time off work, and extra care. Life doesn't get cheaper when your body needs more support. For many women, this thought doesn't come during a crisis. It comes while folding the laundry, while washing the dishes, and while sitting in traffic. And while lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, everything looks fine on the outside, but something inside you whispers, "Am I ready?" And almost automatically, we push the thought away. And you said, "I'll deal with it later." And I don't want to think negatively. Other people have it worse. Sis, that's not denial. That's also not irresponsibility. That's a survival habit. For decades, your nervous systems learned only one rule: keep going. And you learn how to function on low fuel. And you know how to move even when you are tired. And you know how to keep showing up even when no one is checking on you. You learn how to postpone yourself so often and that it stopped feeling like postponement and it started feeling like normal life. I didn't notice it at first either. One evening after work, I came home exhausted, just not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, the kind that lives in my bones. I sit down and heard myself say something I'd said for years. I deal with it later. Later rest, later planning, later dreams, and later me. And suddenly, it landed. I wasn't planning my life anymore. I was just surviving the next hour. Even rest had become something I delayed. Survival wasn't just something I did. It had quietly become my default settings. Like driving with the low fuels, lights on, and convincing myself I'll fill up the gas later. And maybe you recognize that feelings also. Because many women live this way. Capable, responsible, and dependable. So no one asks, "Are you okay?" And survival habits don't disappear just because life changes. They stay until they get reset. Your brain didn't learn survival by accident. It learned it through repetitions. And every time you push through, and every time responsibility came before rest, every time you told yourself, "I'll handle my needs later," your brain learned this is how we stay safe. And here's something important: what was learned can be relearned. That's neuroplasticity, not as a science lecture, but as a permission. Your brain isn't frozen at this age, and it's not closed for renovations, and it hasn't expired, but it is loyal, very loyal, loyal to what once kept you safe. There was a time when learning new things felt heavy for me. Technology, online tools, unfamiliar skills. I keep thinking, why this feels so hard? And then I realized it wasn't that I couldn't learn. I was afraid of disturbing what already worked. It's like rearranging the furniture in the dark room. Nothing is broken, but you move slowly because you don't know what you might bump into. That's how the brain works. It doesn't measure happiness, it measures familiarity. So, when learning feels overwhelming and when preparing for the future feels exhausting and when changing habits feels uncomfortable, that's not laziness. That's your brain saying, let's not risk what we already know. And that's why so many women feel stuck. Not because they can't change, but because no one taught them how to change without panic. Let me say this clearly. Healing without preparation creates fear. And preparation without healing creates burnout. But we need both. This is the reset and not a hustle reset. And not a pressure reset. Not a reinvention that exhausts you. It's a life reset. Because here's the quiet truth that many women carry. They don't want to be rich. They want to be safe. And they don't want luxury. They want options. And they don't want to depend on their children. But they want dignity. And that dignity is not selfish. It's responsible. Our bills don't retire, but our bodies change and our energy shifts. Ignoring that doesn't make us strong. It makes us vulnerable. So preparation isn't one big leap. It's a small repeated actions that tells your nervous systems, I'm taking care of us now. That's how the brain learns safety again. Motivation comes and goes, but habit stays. Habits don't require confidence to begin. They build confidence through action. 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes of learning instead of scrolling. 10 minutes of practicing instead of worrying. And 10 minutes of choosing your future self. Consistency rewires the brain, not intensity. This is where many women get stuck. They think, if I can't do a lot, I won't start. But safety isn't built through big moves. It's built through a small promise that you can keep. I spent years preparing everyone else for what was next. Working, providing, sacrificing, being the strong one. Helping people board their next chapters. And one day, I noticed something honest. I was standing on that platform without a ticket of my own. That's not a failure. That was a transition. No one ever said that one day this season will change and you'll need something of your own. So let me say it to you now. You are allowed to build something that belongs to you. And you are allowed to learn again. And you are allowed to start small. and you're allowed to be a beginner. Your brain doesn't expire at 50, and your value doesn't disappear when caregiving slow down. This season isn't about fading. It's about becoming intentional. So here's your gentle invitation this week. Just this week. Just choose one. A small habit that prepares your future. 1. 10 minutes a day. Not to master, not to monetize yet. Just to show your brain that you can learn, you can show up, and you can change safely. And notice what happens. Because fear gets quieter when preparation begins. And before we close, remember this. Fear is loud when the future feels unprepared. And preparation brings peace. Say that when worry shows up. And you're not behind. You're finally looking ahead. And you're not finished. You're making room for options. And I'll meet you again next time on the other side of dreams. Thank you for spending this time with me. If something in today's episode stays with you, take it gently. You don't have to fix everything at once. This podcast is about healing, but it's also about preparing for what's next calmly and with dignity. You're not behind, and you are not invisible. You are not finished. I'll meet you again next time on the other side of dreams.